Hello and welcome to Authorpreneurs HQ. I'm Janine Bolin, and with us today we have Lisa Strahs-Lorenc. And the reason I'm very jazzed about speaking with this particular author and what we can do to help you with your authorship is this. Fact is, Lisa and I are in each other's books. I built a book. Lisa said, sure, I'd love to be one of the authors to give advice and help authors so that they stay in a debt-free living place and they live in that conservator lifestyle. She and I both have a very similar moral compass. We do not want you going into debt for your book. If you are in debt for your book, we want to teach you how to get out of debt so that you can be in that conservator lifestyle and live what you preach. And she's coming at this from the nonprofit sector. So Lisa, if you don't mind telling us just a little bit about the experience that you have. It's only been 25 years in the nonprofit sector. So talk to us about the perspective that you're bringing that's so unique about how to build a book that supports your nonprofit. And at the same time, you're helping a very large number of people.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks, Janine. And it's wonderful to have you in my book as well. Your story is amazing. So I hope people will read it as well. So I have been a not-for-profit person since 1978. My first position was in an international adoption agency, and then I have some other organizations. So I already had my heart and soul in nonprofits. I love the causes. I love the fact that they do something that's, changing lives, improving lives, making differences. So I didn't plan on this, but my husband died of pancreatic cancer 14 years ago. And after the death, I realized, number one, I knew very little about this disease. We went through as much as we could finding out and figuring out, and it was 15 months of horror. And I would say less than 6 months, I decided that I wanted to write a book. Now, what was that book going to be and why? I found that there were a lot of people on a listserv. I was on a huge listserv throughout the world of pancreatic cancer patients and their families. And they were all asking questions about the disease, about research, about clinical trials, about all kinds of things that none of us knew anything about, but we had to learn really fast. So after he died, I said, hey, there are all these people out there, and there's an organization that we have here on Long Island called the Lustgarten Foundation that was so helpful to us when we were trying to figure out what the options were. And I said, I would love to do something, number one, his memory, and number two, for every family that's going through this horrible disease. And I want to donate money to this organization. They are 501c3. All the money, by the way, 100% goes to research. Because they're funded by a company, all their salaries and the rental is paid by the company. So when you donate, it's going completely. Because if you look some of these companies, you're not happy with some of the things you see sometimes.
Yeah,
so
you and I are both big in philanthropic stuff. So
some of them have crazy salaries.
Yeah, I understand.
Anyway, yeah. So I decided that I would do something for those families. And number one, I wanted to educate. Number two, I wanted to share support. And number three, I wanted to raise money for the organization. I didn't want to just donate. You can donate money, and that's fine. But if you write a book, and if it's a book that's going to be helpful to people and going to make them feel like, hey, I'm not the only one going through this, and this is what other people did, I think that's a magic formula for success. And so I started out with sending out a big email to everybody. I'm writing a book, and I'd like 50 families. That's what I said. And I did get about 50 families. So they realized they weren't being paid for this. So they dropped. And I had probably about, 35 or so families from there. And then that dropped to about 20 families. So my first book that was published on September 3rd, 2010, in memory of my husband, was a book called Pancreatic Cancer. It's a Family Affair. And I interviewed all the families. We talked about the disease. We talked about the things everybody went through, the different clinical trials and all the different procedures. And at the time, I had survivors in that book, which was really wonderful. It's inspirational. So I told the not-for-profit that I was doing this and that all the money would be donated to them. I picked a self-publishing company because I thought that this way I could have my own decisions. I wanted to have autonomy in what it was and how it was written. And that was just my own personal opinion, being new to this whole procedure. And so it was published. And right after that, like in October, was the first walk. So I had a table, of course, at Lustgarten's walk. I sold the books and I handed them the money. I just handed over each of the money. Now, of course, it was on Amazon and it was also on Barnes and Noble. And I did my book launch at Borders, which went bankrupt. And whatever I sold, they were supposed to give me back money, but they did not because they were bankrupt. But it was a great launch, by the way. I had a lot of friends and family there, a lot of people who had heard of people with pancreatic cancer. And so I felt really good about doing something that I knew was educational, supportive, and helping an organization do its incredible work, because it has scientists and it's trying to figure out why pancreatic cancer is one of the four most difficult cancers to treat.
Right.
So
you forgive me. So one of the things that I find very exciting about your story is, as you know, my passion is to make sure authors make money so that they can create the next book and the next book, if that's what they choose to do. Or that we also have authorpreneurs who are running a small business and they want the book as an authority. And what I love about what you're talking about is, here, you're not trying to build authority, you're just trying to build awareness. So no matter what your message is, this book can help you promote that. And it's just lovely that you also can then hand over the profits to an organization that you know, like, and trust. And so tell us about that second book, because you had two books that you ended up doing.
Yes. So I followed the families. We became very close. We lost everyone except for one person in that book. She was pretty amazing, went through a lot of different things. So I stayed in touch. And at 10 years, I said, would anybody like to do a follow-up book? I want people to know that life goes on, as difficult as that is. And so out of those 20 families, 12 said yes. 8 said they couldn't deal with this again.
Right.
They didn't want to recount what they went through. They didn't want to recount the chronological, growth and change in their lives and all. But I felt that 10 years was a good time period to really look and say, okay, where are we now in our lives and what's happened to us? And so many of us, are with other people, or people, decide to pursue other things. I mean, from the deaths came other things. And so the second book was September 3rd, 2020, during the pandemic.
Congratulations, you made it through.
I did. And of course, now a live launch was out. And I did an online launch, which was wonderful because I had the Lustgarten scientists on the line. And he explained what's been going on with research and where the dollars are going to, which really made it credible. So the second book was called Pancreatic Cancer, Families Move On.
Nice.
And I was able to really show that our lives do change as our loved ones would want us to. And the message was, hey, we're all here. We're all doing the best we can. It's never going to be the same. We'll always love our loved ones, but we live for today and it's time to move on. And that message resonated with people. People were calling me up and asking me to send a gift to a relative or a friend, because it wasn't just about pancreatic cancer. It was about after death, what happens to the loved ones. So even though the money again went to Lustgarten, and of course I did more walks, I did more fundraising, and in fact, we did a virtual fundraiser where we walked around and we walked around the park and we were talking to each other on the phones. That was our virtual walk. And I raised money then too.
Bravo.
And, everybody bought a book, and then I would, send the money again over to Lustgarten again. So the two books have just been, for me, a way of giving back and saying, we're not alone. I want all of you to know that we get through as best we can. This is life. And this is a great organization. I continue to support it. I continue to go to, their fundraisers and all. And I'm very happy that the books have done what they have, that they've served both purposes: support, education, not feeling alone anymore, and raising money for a great organization for a horrible disease. So
And thank you for your work, because one of the things that I like to share with authors, and you guys will hear this frequently over the summit and through different videos in different ways, is that if you're called upon to write a book, like you feel like you need to write a book on a topic, you need to write that book. There's a reader out there asking the question. So talk to us about your latest book, the one that I was lucky enough to be in. Talk to us about career journeys and what prompted you to write that book, because here, you were taking a total detour from where you were. So as authors, sometimes we take a 90-degree turn. Talk to us a little bit about that journey for yourself.
Yeah, that's easy for me. I've been a career counselor since 1985. A career counselor is not a career coach. They actually do counseling. They understand why people do what they do, or why they're blocked, or why they don't take risks. And they get in touch with their personality, their skills, their abilities. People don't know what they want to be, and they're forced into things because of maybe parents, or because their guidance counselor said they should do something, or they're off to college and they don't need to be. There's so many things that happen. And I have done so many years of working with workforce development, trying to educate, trying to have businesses educate students about what they do. We have a problem on Long Island about workforce and all. But beyond that, I felt that who gets career counseling? Who knows what they want to do and where they're going to do it? So a book seemed to me to be natural. I mean, I do individual career counseling, I do libraries and all, but okay, how can I get out a message to more people? And I did research. There's a lot of books about careers and resources and all, but wait a minute. Who writes a book about others' career journeys? And this book, which I picked people who were diverse, different ages. We're talking ages 27 to 85 at the writing of the book. And the stories and the questions, I have it in interview form for a reason. I want them to see it as an interview. I want them to hear the kind of stories that each of them told. And that's part one of the book. So because I'm a teacher, I have reflections, and I have had a look at the stories and what to look for and all. So that's part one. Part two is now you discover your own path. So I have some very basic exercises that people can start with about who they are, about what they love, about what their dreams were. Maybe they're not anymore. And they take sort of a good idea, a compass, a moral compass of where they are in their lives now. And this is for students. This is for graduates. This is for parents who are always struggling with how to help their kids. And this is also for people who are trying to explore other careers. They think their lives are over where they're not. My husband, who was an architect for 25 years, became a lawyer at the age of 48. He's a great example.
Yeah,
So
we have those. Yeah, we have those kind of stories. And we also have the stories of people who, when they turn 50 or 55, they want some more meaningful work. And that's a big career path change for a lot of people. And we've definitely seen it in the boomer generation. And I know the Gen Xers are right behind doing very similar things where they're like, okay, I've done this for almost 25. Sometimes you hear 35, 40 years. I just am kind of done. I've mastered it. I'm ready to move on. And so that's where Lisa's book will be very helpful to those individuals as well. When it comes to authors, I would love for you to share a little bit about what you learned about the career journeys, but also how it's helped you in your own author journey.
Well, first of all, as a career counselor, I've heard it all. And my own children have heard it all. They've been told the wrong thing and all that. So, for my own career journey, I know how important it is to look at your transferable skills, to see opportunities where maybe you didn't see it before, to be open to other things that you can do. And people don't realize the opportunities that they have and what they can be. So I like to open people's minds. And the career journeys really showed, number one, there are things you can't control. Okay, there's racial discrimination, there's gender discrimination, there's religious discrimination, there's family expectations, there's cultural expectations. I mean, there's a lot of things you can't control. So you got to get a hold of all this, and you got to say, okay, what can I do that's for me, that's right for me in my life, that I can control? And that is, hey, mentors. Find some mentors, find some people who are going to be supportive of you and who are going to think about what you're good at and what you enjoy and really hear you and really listen to you. And then start volunteering and start interning. How come people say, I want to be a lawyer? They get through law school and all of a sudden they say, oh my gosh, this is not what I enjoy. Well, why didn't you find out about that a while ago? Because you never shadowed somebody, because you never talk to them about their lives and what they do for a living. Like, find out what it's really like. And students get all this pressure on themselves. Oh, have to decide, have to know, off to college, get a degree. Well, these students are carrying loans now, okay, big loans, and they're not even using their degrees. I have a whole parent page in there about parent 10 commandments. I have a whole page in there about college and options. I mean, you know what? When you really open the book, you see it's career journeys, it's resources, it's exercises and activities that really help you hone in at any age, at any stage. And I do want to say that I feel so sorry for people who are not happy in what they're doing for a living. And I do a thing about job versus career. And we all understand you have to make a living, you have to pay bills and all. But what about happiness? What about looking forward to going to a job and going to do something that you enjoy? I think the pandemic woke everybody up. I think it said, wait a minute.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I'm not going here.
And
I'm not doing this anymore.
And I know a lot of times authors, one of the things that I've learned from authors is when they sit down to write their message or they sit down to write their book, one of the things that's very helpful for them is the fact that, okay, this is the quiet space. This is the time where I can allow my creativity to shine, even though I have a job that's helping me write the book. And so one of the things I like people to do is definitely give Lisa a look-see. She frequently hops around. She's in several networking events. You're welcome to bring her in to speak to your networking group or whatever people you happen to have, so that she can kind of coach you guys on, are you in the right job? And is it a job that you want to sustain you for the next 10 or 15 years? And depending upon your emotional gut reaction to that, you may want to chat with her. And so thank you so much for your time today. I'd love for you to give us one little last tip for our authors that are listening.
Do what you love, and you'll always love what you do. That's my tip. And by the way, in Career Journeys, in this book, there are 14 incredible people, including myself, who have learned lots of lessons. And I have lessons along the road, and each one has a great quote. Amazing, advice, support. Everybody's going to be inspired and motivated by these stories. And then the fact that they can do it on their own and figure some things out and be open to some ideas. My dream. And by the way, as an author, always pursue what your passion is. Mm-hmm. Don't say, oh, I can't do it, it's not going to happen. Always pursue, because you'll regret and you'll look back and say, why didn't I do that? Don't live like that.
And Lisa would know all about that. She highly encourages people to live without regret. And you will find her contact information below this video. If you have any questions, Lisa is more than happy to share her answers with you. And thank you so much for being a part of Authorpreneurs HQ. And this is Janine Boland.